Fleet Admiral Chul Su studied the tactical display in the Alliance Command Center. 3 months of careful planning had led to this moment, humanity's first strike against the hegemony. The target was a forward operating base that served as a staging ground for their next wave of extinctions. "All ships report ready," announced Communications Chief Heywan. The Alliance fleet consisted of 30 vessels, 20 human ships upgraded with alien technology, and 10 ships crewed by mixed species teams. Squadron leader Bo Ram stood ready in the fighter bay of the flagship. Her pilots were a mix of humans and Brennock, the only alien species with reflexes fast enough for combat flying. The cooperation between species had taken months to develop, but now they functioned as a unified force. Remember, Fleet Admiral Chul Su broadcast to all ships, "This isn't just about winning a battle. We're proving that the hegemony can be beaten. Every alien species in the galaxy will be watching the results." The hegemony base was located in a system with 2 gas giants and multiple asteroid fields. According to intelligence reports, it housed a garrison of 5,000 Korvaxi soldiers and served as a supply depot for 3 full battle fleets. Commando Jungi and his Special Forces team were already in position. They had spent 2 weeks infiltrating the system in a cloaked ship, studying the base's defenses and preparing for the ground assault. "Defensive systems are exactly as described," Jungi reported through encrypted communication. "Heavy shields, automated weapon platforms, and a garrison that's never seen real combat." The plan was complex but straightforward. The fleet would engage the base's space defenses while Special Forces teams disabled critical systems from within. Once the shields were down, the full Alliance fleet would destroy the facility. "All units, execute," Fleet Admiral Chul Su ordered. The battle began with Squadron Leader Bo Ram's fighters screaming out of hyperspace directly into the enemy sensor grid. The hegemony defenders reacted exactly as predicted. Slow, methodical, and completely unprepared for the speed and aggression of Deathworld tactics. "Contact. Enemy fighters launching," Bo Ram reported as her squadron dove toward the enemy base. Her pilots flew in patterns no alien had ever seen before. Wild, seemingly random maneuvers that confused targeting systems while positioning them for perfect attack runs. The hegemony fighters were larger and more heavily armed, but their pilots flew like technicians following a manual. They maintained formation, followed standard procedures, and tried to engage at long range where their superior weapons would have advantages. Bo Ram's pilots fought like predators. They broke formation, used asteroid cover, and closed to ranges where skill mattered more than technology. Within minutes, half the enemy fighter squadron was destroyed. These pilots have never been in a real dogfight. Bo Ram laughed over the communication channel as she rolled her fighter through a maneuver that would have killed most alien pilots. Meanwhile, Commando Jungi's team was moving through the base's interior. The Korvaxi soldiers were impressive physically, tall, armored, and well-equipped. But they had never faced opponents who fought the way humans did. "They're defending by the book," Jungi whispered to his team as they approached the shield generators. Standard positions, predictable patterns, no improvisation. The human commandos moved like ghosts through corridors designed for beings who had never developed concepts like stealth or asymmetric warfare. They disabled security systems, planted explosives, and eliminated guards without triggering general alarms. In space, the main fleet engagement was revealing the same patterns. The hegemony ships were powerful and well-armed, but their tactics were rigid and unimaginative. Fleet Admiral Chul Su watched as his captains adapted to the battle in real time. When enemy ships concentrated their fire, human vessels scattered and regrouped. When the hegemony tried to maintain long-range formations, Alliance ships closed distance and used superior maneuverability. "Their commanders are waiting for orders from someone else," observed Captain Taemin from the Indomitable. "They're not making independent decisions." "Then we'll give them more decisions than they can handle," replied Fleet Admiral Chul Su. The Alliance fleet split into multiple groups, each attacking different targets simultaneously. The hegemony defense coordinator couldn't process the rapidly changing situation fast enough to respond effectively. Communications. Chief Heywan was managing the most complex military operation in galactic history. Human ships coordinated with alien crews, speaking multiple languages and using different tactical concepts, but somehow it worked. The Nethys computers are processing targeting data faster than anything we've ever seen, she reported. The Brennock engineers are keeping our shields up despite heavy damage. The Kalari navigators are finding approach routes through asteroid fields that shouldn't be possible. Commando Jungi's team reached their primary objective, the base's central power grid. The Korvaxi had built impressive defenses against space attacks, but they had never considered the possibility of infiltration by ground forces. Charges set, Jungi reported. Detonation in 30 seconds. The explosions that followed crippled the base's defensive systems. Shields flickered and died. Weapon platforms went offline and communication arrays were destroyed. For the first time in hegemony history, one of their installations was vulnerable. Squadron leader Boram led the final assault on the crippled base. Her fighters, supported by the main fleet, poured fire into the facility until it was nothing but glowing debris. But the most important moment came when they captured enemy survivors. The Korvaxi prisoners were brought aboard the Alliance flagship under heavy guard. They were indeed impressive physically, tall, powerful beings encased in advanced armor. But their psychological profiles revealed something unexpected. They're terrified, reported the interrogation team. These soldiers have never been defeated before. They don't know how to process what just happened. Fleet Admiral Chulsu studied the alien prisoners through the security monitors. The mighty Korvaxi, who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, looked like frightened children when faced with opponents who fought back effectively. They've been winning through intimidation for so long that they forgot how to actually fight, he realized. When intimidation fails, they have no backup plan. The intelligence gathered from the captured base was invaluable. Computer systems contained detailed information about hegemony fleet movements, supply lines, and planned operations. Most importantly, they revealed the locations of other surviving species that the Alliance could contact. According to this data, there are refugee populations in 17 different systems. Communications Chief Haywan reported. Some of them have been hiding for over a century, but the psychological impact of the victory was even more significant than the tactical gains. News of the Alliance's success spread through the hidden networks of galactic survivors faster than any official communication could travel. Species that had given up hope began to believe that resistance was possible. Refugee groups that had been hiding in the deepest corners of space started reaching out to the Alliance. Most importantly, the hegemony's reputation for invincibility was shattered. Squadron leader Boram addressed her mixed-species pilot squadron after the battle. Today we proved that different species can fight together. Human aggression, Brennock reflexes, Nethys precision. We're stronger together than any of us could be alone. Commando Jungi's report to military command was equally optimistic. The hegemony ground forces are well equipped but poorly trained for actual combat. They rely on their reputation and superior technology. When both fail, they collapse quickly. Fleet Admiral Chulsu called a meeting of all Alliance leadership to analyze the results. The victory had been complete, but they all knew it was just the beginning. This was a forward base with minimal defenses, he warned. The hegemony's main fleets will be much more dangerous, and now they know we exist. Good, replied Admiral Hyunwoo via quantum communication from Earth. Let them know. Let the entire galaxy know that someone is finally fighting back. Communications Chief Haywan was already detecting increased hegemony communications traffic. Emergency signals, fleet redeployments, and urgent consultations between various Korvaxi commanders. They're scared, she reported with satisfaction. For the first time in centuries, the hegemony is afraid. The Alliance had achieved something that no galactic species had managed in over 300 years. They had made the hegemony bleed. More importantly, they had proven that unity, determination, and creative tactics could overcome superior technology and numbers. As the Alliance fleet regrouped and prepared for the inevitable counterattack, Fleet Admiral Chulsu felt a grim satisfaction. The galaxy's long nightmare of fear was finally ending. The hegemony was about to learn what happened when they threatened species that refused to be victims. Ambassador Jiwoo's diplomatic ship approached the hidden station slowly, its weapons powered down, and communication arrays broadcasting peaceful intentions. This was humanity's first official attempt to contact alien survivors, and everyone knew how crucial it was to make a good impression. 6 months had passed since the discovery of the Kalari refugees. During that time, Human intelligence teams had been tracking down other survivor groups scattered across the galaxy. The process was dangerous and delicate. Many species were hiding so deep that they attacked anything that approached. Receiving a response, reported Communications Officer Haywan. They're asking us to identify ourselves and state our intentions. Ambassador Jiwoo took a deep breath. She had spent months learning the trade language that most galactic species used for communication. Tell them we are humans from Earth. We received the Kalari distress signal and we want to help fight the hegemony. The response came back quickly. Impossible. No species fights the hegemony and survives. Tell them we haven't fought them yet, Jiwoo replied. But we intend to. After an hour of careful negotiation, the hidden station agreed to allow a small human delegation aboard. Ambassador Jiwoo, Tech Specialist Wu Jin, and Tactical Officer Ye Jin transferred to the alien facility in a small shuttle. The station was a masterpiece of hidden engineering. Built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, it housed refugees from 3 different species, the technological Nethys, the hardy Brennok miners, and a few surviving Kalari. Each group occupied different sections, cooperating for survival but maintaining their distinct cultures. The first alien they met was Kethrin, a Nethys engineer whose people had once been the galaxy's foremost computer scientists. His body was tall and thin, with silver skin and large eyes adapted for seeing in low light. You claim to be from a death world, Kethrin said through the translation device, but you look like any other bipedal species. Tech Specialist Wu Jin had expected this reaction. He pulled out a portable gravity generator and set it to Earth normal. Please try to stand in this field. Kethrin stepped into the gravity field and immediately collapsed. Even with his advanced technology, he couldn't function under the crushing weight that humans considered normal. How do you move in such conditions? He gasped as Wu Jin turned off the device. We don't just move, Wu Jin replied. We run, fight, and work. This is what we grew up in. The demonstration had the desired effect. Word spread quickly through the station that the humans were indeed from a death world. For the first time in decades, the refugees began to hope that someone might actually be able to fight the hegemony. Ambassador Jiwoo spent days meeting with representatives from each species. The conversations were difficult because the aliens had lived with defeat for so long that they had trouble imagining victory. The hegemony cannot be stopped, insisted Gronak, a Brennok mining supervisor. His people were short and stocky, with thick skin adapted for working in dangerous environments. Their fleets are too large, their weapons too powerful. Have you ever seen them fight a real battle? Tactical Officer Ye Jin asked. What do you mean? Against an enemy that shoots back. Against opponents who adapt and improvise. Against soldiers who refuse to surrender. Gronak considered this. No, they always demand submission first. Species that refuse are bombarded from orbit. Then they've never fought a war, Ye Jin concluded. They've only conducted executions. Captain Seela arrived at the station 3 days later with intelligence from her reconnaissance missions into hegemony space. Her stealth ship had been mapping enemy positions and studying their operations. The hegemony is powerful but predictable, she reported to the assembled refugees. They follow the same pattern everywhere. Overwhelming display of force, demand for surrender, then systematic destruction if refused. They don't adapt because they've never needed to. The Nethys engineer Kethrin leaned forward. What are you proposing? Ambassador Jiwoo stood up. An alliance. Your knowledge combined with human military capability. We provide the fighting force, you provide technology and intelligence. And if we lose? Asked a Kalari survivor. Then we die fighting instead of hiding, Jiwoo replied. But we won't lose. The confidence in her voice surprised even the humans. But as the discussions continued, it became clear that humanity's death world psychology was infectious. The aliens began to remember what it felt like to have hope. Tech Specialist Wu Jin worked with Nethys engineers to integrate alien technology with human weapon systems. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. Nethys quantum computers could process targeting data far faster than human systems, while human weapons were more reliable and efficient than alien designs. Your computers think faster, Wu Jin explained to Kethrin. Our weapons hit harder. Combined, we can create systems neither species could build alone. Tactical Officer Ye Jin developed training programs that taught alien refugees basic military concepts. Most had never even considered violence as a solution to problems, so the learning curve was steep. Fighting isn't just about weapons, she explained to a mixed group of aliens. It's about thinking tactically, adapting to changing situations and never giving up even when things look impossible. The Brannock miners proved surprisingly good students. Their work in dangerous asteroid fields had taught them to think quickly and work under pressure. The Nethys were excellent at strategic planning, but struggled with the rapid decision-making required in combat. The Kalari had trouble with the entire concept of violence, but proved valuable for their detailed knowledge of hegemony operations. Captain Seol-Ah continued her reconnaissance missions. Now with alien guides who knew hegemony space, her discoveries were encouraging. The hegemony military is rigid and bureaucratic, she reported. They follow strict protocols and don't improvise. Their ship commanders wait for orders instead of taking initiative. That's a critical weakness, Tactical Officer Ye-Jin noted. Human military doctrine emphasizes individual initiative and rapid adaptation. Our commanders are trained to make independent decisions. Ambassador Jiwoo worked tirelessly to convince more refugee groups to join the alliance. Each success brought new knowledge and capabilities. The Zephyr survivors had escape pod technology that could save lives during battles. The Titan refugees knew how to build defensive installations in asteroid fields. Each species contributed something valuable, but the most important contribution was psychological. For the first time since the hegemony began their expansion, alien species were working together against a common enemy instead of simply hiding and hoping to survive. We represent something the hegemony has never encountered, Ambassador Jiwoo told the First Alliance Council meeting. Unity through diversity. Cooperation through strength. Hope through determination. The Alliance headquarters was established in the same asteroid system where the humans had first found the Kalari refugees. Hidden facilities were built throughout the region, connected by secret communication networks and protected by early warning systems. Tech specialist Wu Jin marveled at what they were building. 6 months ago, these species were barely surviving in scattered hideouts. Now they're building the foundation for galactic resistance. The Alliance's first major project was the construction of a combined fleet. Human-designed ships were built with alien technology and crewed by mixed species teams. The results were impressive. Vessels that combined human tactical thinking with alien technical capabilities. These ships are unlike anything in the galaxy, Captain Seol-Ah observed as she watched the first Alliance vessel complete its trials. Fast enough to outrun hegemony heavy cruisers, tough enough to take punishment, and smart enough to adapt in combat. But the real test would come soon. Intelligence reports indicated that a hegemony patrol fleet was approaching the outer edges of Alliance space. It was time to see if their theories about Deathworld advantages and alien cooperation would work in actual combat. Ambassador Jiwoo stood before the Alliance Council one final time before the battle. The hegemony has spent centuries teaching the galaxy that resistance is futile. Today we begin teaching them a different lesson. Tactical Officer Ye-Jin smiled as she reviewed the battle plans. The hegemony expected to face scattered, terrified refugees. Instead, they would encounter something new in galactic history, a unified force that refused to be afraid. The Alliance was ready for war. The news from the Kalari system hit Earth like a nuclear bomb. Within hours of Captain Taemin's return, emergency sessions were called in every major government. The evidence was undeniable. Humanity faced an enemy that had destroyed dozens of civilizations and was heading their way. General Yujin stood before the assembled military leaders in the underground war room beneath Seoul. The Kalari records were displayed on massive screens around the room, showing the systematic destruction of entire worlds. The threat is real, she announced to the silent room. The hegemony has been moving through our galaxy arm for centuries, eliminating any species that refuses to submit. Based on their pattern, they'll reach human space within 50 to 100 years. Admiral Hyunwoo studied the tactical displays. What do we know about their military capabilities? Commander Jae-sung activated a holographic projection. Their technology is approximately 200 years ahead of ours. Faster ships, stronger weapons, better shields. In a direct confrontation, they would have significant advantages. So we surrender, asked General Dong-sik from the Mars Defense Corps. No, General Yujin said firmly. We fight. But we fight smart. Dr. Kyung-soo, the military's chief weapons researcher, stood up. I've been analyzing the hegemony's tactics based on the Kalari records. They rely on overwhelming technological superiority and fear. They've never faced organized resistance. Carl, what do you mean? Every species they've encountered has been peaceful. The Kalari never even developed weapons. The Nethys relied on defensive technology. The Brannock were miners, not soldiers. The hegemony has never fought a real war. Pilot Dong Hai, who had been studying the alien ship designs, raised his hand. Their vessels are built for intimidation and bombardment, not ship-to-ship combat. Look at these specifications. Huge, heavily armored, but not very maneuverable. Dr. Kyung-soo nodded. Exactly. They're designed to terrify civilians and destroy fixed targets. They're not built to fight enemies who shoot back. General Yujin walked to the main display. The Kalari records mention something else important. The galaxy considers Earth a death world. The room fell quiet. Most of the officers had never heard the term before. According to alien standards, General Yujin continued, Earth is an extremely hostile environment. High gravity, violent weather, dangerous predators, frequent natural disasters, and an atmosphere that's poisonous to most galactic species. Medic Jin A, who had been studying alien biology, stood up. I've been comparing human physiology to the Kalari and other species mentioned in the records. We're incredibly robust by galactic standards. Our bones are denser, our muscles stronger, our reflexes faster. Most aliens would be crushed by Earth's gravity. But it's more than just physical, Dr. Kyung-soo added. Growing up on a death world shapes psychology. Humans are natural problem solvers because we've had to adapt to survive. We think tactically because our environment constantly threatens us. Admiral Hyun-woo began to understand. You're saying humanity has advantages the hegemony has never encountered. Exactly, General Yujin confirmed. The hegemony has conquered garden worlds populated by species that evolved in peaceful environments. They've never faced opponents who grew up fighting for survival every day. Over the following weeks, Earth's military began a massive research project. They studied every aspect of human warfare and compared it to the hegemony's methods. The results were encouraging. Pilot Dong Hai led a team testing new fighter tactics. Human pilots could withstand G-forces that would kill most aliens. They could make rapid maneuvers and tactical decisions that alien minds, accustomed to peaceful cooperation, couldn't match. Our pilots don't just fly ships, Dong Hai reported. They think like predators. They hunt, they adapt, they improvise. The hegemony's pilots are probably trained technicians, not warriors. Dr. Kyung-soo's weapons research revealed more advantages. Human technology might be less advanced, but it was designed by a species that understood conflict. Earth's weapons were efficient, reliable, and deadly. Alien technology seemed focused on intimidation and bombardment, rather than actual combat effectiveness. Look at their energy weapons, Dr. Kyung-soo explained to the research team. Powerful, yes, but slow to recharge and energy-intensive. Our kinetic weapons might be simpler, but they're more practical in extended combat. General Yujin worked with strategists to develop new military doctrines. The key was to avoid playing to the hegemony's strengths while maximizing human advantages. We can't match their technology, she told her staff, but we can outfight them. Humans excel at asymmetric warfare, rapid adaptation, and individual initiative. The hegemony relies on overwhelming force and fear. We'll show them that terror works both ways. Medic Jinne made perhaps the most important discovery. She had been studying stress responses in humans compared to the peaceful alien species. Most galactic species shut down under extreme stress, she reported. Their minds seek cooperation and harmony. But humans become more focused, more aggressive, more creative under pressure. Combat stress makes us better fighters, not worse ones. The implications were staggering. Humanity had evolved on a world so dangerous that constant stress was normal. Other species had evolved in safe environments where cooperation and peaceful problem-solving were sufficient. In a war, those different evolutionary paths would create vastly different capabilities. Admiral Hyun-woo called a meeting of Earth's top military leaders. The research was complete and the conclusions were clear. The hegemony has advantages, he announced. Better technology, larger fleets, more resources. But they have one critical weakness. They've never fought anyone like us. General Yujin displayed the new tactical assessments. Human military doctrine emphasizes adaptability, individual initiative, and aggressive problem-solving. We're trained to function in chaos, to improvise solutions, and to keep fighting even when situations seem hopeless. The hegemony expects enemies to either surrender or die quickly, Commander Jae-sung added. They have no experience with opponents who get more dangerous as situations get worse. Dr. Kyung-soo revealed the new weapons projects. We're developing technology specifically designed to counter their advantages. Smaller, faster ships that can outmaneuver their heavy vessels. Weapons that prioritize reliability over raw power. Defense systems that can function even when damaged. Most importantly, General Yujin concluded, we're not fighting alone. The galaxy is full of surviving refugees from species the hegemony destroyed. Many of them have valuable knowledge and technology. We can build an alliance. Admiral Hyunwoo looked around the room at Earth's best military minds. For the first time since hearing the Kalari message, he felt something other than dread. He felt hope. The hegemony thinks fear is their greatest weapon, he said. They're about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon is the refusal to be afraid. Pilot Donghai stood up. When do we start? Admiral Hyunwoo smiled grimly. We already have. Earth's children don't wait for threats to come to them. We're going hunting. The room erupted in determined voices as Earth's military leaders began planning humanity's first interstellar war. The hegemony had spent centuries teaching the galaxy that resistance was futile. Now they would learn what happened when they threatened a species that had never learned how to quit. 3 weeks after the alien signal reached Earth's fleet, the political arguments were still raging. Admiral Hyunwoo sat in his quarters, reading the latest messages from home. Half the government wanted to send a research mission to investigate the signal. The other half wanted to pretend they had never heard it. Commander Jae-sung knocked on the door and entered without waiting for permission. The intelligence officer looked tired with dark circles under his eyes. He had been analyzing everything they knew about the signal and its implications. The council finally made a decision, Jae-sung said, dropping into a chair. They're authorizing a small reconnaissance mission. 5 ships, volunteer crews only. Admiral Hyunwoo nodded. It was more than he had expected. Who's leading it? Captain Tae-min volunteered to take the Indomitable. Engineer Hyejin has been working around the clock to modify the ships for the long journey. Dr. Sang-wook wants to come along to study any alien technology we might find. And you? Commander Jae-sung smiled grimly. Someone needs to evaluate the military situation. If this hegemony is real, we need to know what we're dealing with. 2 days later, the small fleet departed from the outer edge of the solar system. Captain Tae-min commanded from the Indomitable, while the other 4 ships spread out in a protective formation. Engineer Hyejin had installed new long-range scanners and improved the jump drives for the extended journey. The trip to the Kalari system took 3 weeks. During the journey, Dr. Eunji continued working on the alien language, trying to decode more complex concepts. Corporal Minho used the time to train his Marine squad for unknown conditions. Dr. Sang-wook studied everything they knew about alien biology and technology. When they finally arrived at their destination, the first thing they saw was death. The Kalari home system had once supported multiple worlds with thriving civilizations. Now it was a graveyard. Planets had been bombarded from orbit until their surfaces glowed with radioactive fire. Space stations had been torn apart and left to drift as twisted metal sculptures. The debris of an entire civilization floated in the darkness. My God, Captain Tae-min whispered as the images appeared on the main screen. Commander Jae-sung was already analyzing the destruction. This wasn't a battle. It was systematic extermination. Look at the pattern of the bombardment. They targeted population centers, industrial facilities, even agricultural areas. Someone wanted to make sure nothing survived. Dr. Sang-wook studied the wreckage of what had once been a space station. The technology is completely different from ours, but you can see they were advanced. This station alone could have housed millions of beings. Are there any survivors? Captain Tae-min asked. Lieutenant Subin ran long-range scans while the fleet moved carefully through the debris field. For hours she found nothing but dead metal and empty space. Then her instruments detected something unusual. I'm reading life signs, she announced. Very faint, but definitely there. It's coming from inside that asteroid. The asteroid was actually a piece of one of the destroyed planets blown into space during the bombardment. Hidden inside a natural cave system, the scanners detected artificial structures and signs of life. Captain Tae-min ordered the Marines to prepare for first contact. Corporal Minho and his squad put on their best dress uniforms and checked their translation equipment. Dr. Eunji joined them, nervous but excited about meeting actual aliens. The shuttle approached the asteroid carefully. As they got closer, they could see that the caves had been modified with airlocks and life support systems. Someone had turned this rock into a desperate shelter. The first Kalari they met was named Veshtar. He was unlike anything humans had imagined aliens would look like. His body was made of living crystal that changed color with his emotions. When he saw the humans, his crystal form shifted from deep blue to bright silver. Dr. Yunji's translation device worked well enough for basic communication. Veshtar spoke in musical tones that the computer converted into words the humans could understand. "You heard our message," Veshtar said, his crystal body flashing with what seemed like amazement. "We sent it into the void without hope. You actually came." "We're sorry we're so late," Dr. Yunji replied. "Your signal took decades to reach us." Veshtar led them deeper into the asteroid base. The humans saw other Kalari survivors, maybe 200 in total out of a population that had once numbered in the billions. They lived in simple chambers carved from rock, surviving on basic life support systems and recycled resources. "Tell us about the hegemony," Commander Jae-sung requested. Veshitar's crystal body turned dark red, the color of anger and fear. They came without warning, demanding submission. They said all species must serve the hegemony or be eliminated as examples to others. We tried to negotiate to find a peaceful solution. What happened? They gave us 1 day to surrender completely. When we asked for more time to consider, they began the bombardment. It lasted for weeks. They didn't stop until every city was ash and every farm was poisoned. Dr. Sang-wook studied the Kalari with scientific curiosity. "Your people never developed weapons?" "We had no need," Veshitar explained. "Our crystal bodies can survive in space and heal from most injuries. We never fought wars because we could always find new worlds to settle. Violence was foreign to us." Corporal Minho exchanged glances with his Marines. The idea of a completely peaceful species was hard for humans to imagine. Earth's history was filled with conflict, competition, and struggle. "How many other species has the hegemony destroyed?" Commander Jae-sung asked. Veshitar's color shifted to deep purple. "Dozens that we knew of. They work systematically, sector by sector. Any species that refuses to become slaves is eliminated completely. Where are they now? Still expanding. Still destroying. The hegemony believes that fear is the best way to control the galaxy. Each extinction teaches other species not to resist." Commander Jae-sung felt a chill run down his spine. "What's their next target?" Veshitar consulted a crystal data storage device. "They move in a pattern following the galactic arm. Based on their previous actions, they should reach your region of space within 50 to 100 years. The humans looked at each other with growing alarm. Earth lay directly in the hegemony's projected path. Captain Taemin asked the question they were all thinking. "What are they like? The hegemony species? Powerful, ruthless, they call themselves the Korvaxi. Their technology is far advanced, and they have conquered hundreds of worlds. But their greatest weapon is fear. Most species surrender without fighting because they know resistance means extinction. Have any species successfully resisted them?" Veshitar's crystal body flickered between colors. "None that we know of. The hegemony has never faced real opposition. They expect surrender or death, nothing else." As the humans prepared to leave the asteroid shelter, Veshtar gave them copies of all the Kalari records about the hegemony, technical specifications, fleet movements, and detailed accounts of the extinctions. "What will you do with this information?" Veshtar asked. Commander Jae-sung looked at the alien survivor with grim determination. "We're going to make sure the galaxy learns that not every species dies quietly." The trip back to Earth took 3 weeks, but it felt like years. The humans studied the Kalari records and began to understand the true scope of the threat. The hegemony was vast, organized, and utterly without mercy. But as Commander Jae-sung analyzed their military tactics, he began to notice something interesting. The hegemony had never fought a real war. They had simply overwhelmed peaceful civilizations with superior technology and threats. They had never faced an enemy that fought back with creativity, determination, and the will to sacrifice everything for freedom. Earth was different. Humanity had been forged in the fires of countless conflicts. They understood war, strategy, and the price of liberty. The hegemony was about to learn what happened when they threatened a species that refused to kneel. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. The Earth Defense Fleet moved through space like a pack of metal wolves, their engines leaving bright trails in the darkness. It had been 3 months since the last patrol, and everything seemed normal. Lieutenant Subin sat at her communication station, listening to the usual chatter between ships. Radio signals from Earth. status reports from the outer colonies, and the endless background noise of space. She had been doing this job for 2 years and nothing ever surprised her anymore. Then something changed. "Sir," Subin called out, her voice tight with confusion. "I'm getting something strange." Admiral Hyunwoo walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal, but not like anything we use. The pattern is too organized to be natural, but the technology is completely different from ours." Subin played the signal through the speakers. It was a series of clicks, whistles, and tones that repeated every few minutes. Captain Taemin, who commanded the Indomitable, joined them. Could it be from one of the outer colonies? Maybe they're testing new equipment. Subin shook her head. "No, sir, I've checked all our frequencies and protocols. This is definitely not human technology. The signal is coming from outside our solar system." Admiral Hyunwoo felt his heart skip a beat. In all of humanity's expansion into space, they had never found signs of alien life. The galaxy seemed empty, filled only with dead rocks and gas clouds. If this was real, it would change everything. "Get Dr. Yoonji up here immediately," the Admiral ordered. Dr. Yoonji arrived on the bridge 20 minutes later, still wearing her lab coat. She was the fleet's chief language expert, responsible for maintaining communication between Earth's many different colonies. Her dark eyes were bright with curiosity as she listened to the signal. "This is incredible," she whispered, running the audio through her computer systems. "The mathematical structure suggests it's definitely a language, but unlike anything on Earth. The complexity is amazing. Can you translate it?" Admiral Hyunwoo asked. Dr. Yoonji was already working, her fingers flying over her keyboard. "Give me time. I need to find patterns, basic mathematical concepts, maybe some simple words. If they're trying to communicate, they'll use universal concepts we both understand." For the next 6 hours, the entire bridge was quiet, except for the steady clicking of Dr. Yoonji's keyboard and the endless repetition of the alien signal. Coffee cups piled up around her workstation as she worked without stopping. Captain Taemin brought her food, but she barely noticed. Admiral Hyunwoo paced the bridge, checking in with other ships in the fleet. Word of the signal had spread quickly, and every communication officer in the fleet was trying to help with the translation. Finally, Dr. Yoonji looked up from her computer. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking slightly. "I've got something," she said. "It's not complete, but I can understand the basic message." "What does it say?" Admiral Hyunwoo asked. Dr. Yoonji took a deep breath. "They call themselves the Kalari. The message is a distress signal. They're saying their worlds are being destroyed by something called the hegemony. They're asking for help." The bridge fell silent. Admiral Hyunwoo stared at the translation on Dr. Yoonji's screen. The words were simple, but their meaning was terrifying. "We are the Kalari. Our worlds burn. The hegemony comes for all who refuse to kneel. If there are others among the stars who value freedom, please remember us." Lieutenant Subin spoke first. "How far away is the signal coming from?" "Based on the signal strength and delay, I estimate about 47 light years," Dr. Yoonji replied. "But the signal is old. It probably took decades to reach us." Captain Taemin crossed his arms. "So we might be listening to the last words of a dead civilization." Admiral Hyunwoo studied the translation again. The Kalari had specifically mentioned others who value freedom. They weren't just calling for help. They were warning anyone who might be listening. "Dr. Yoonji, is there anything else in the signal? Any technical information, coordinates, descriptions of this hegemony?" She shook her head. "The signal is simple and short. They probably designed it to be easy to understand, but that limits how much information they could include." Admiral Hyunwoo walked back to the viewing window. Somewhere out there, an entire species had been crying for help while humanity went about their daily lives completely unaware. The thought made him feel sick. "Sir," Captain Taemin said carefully, "what do we do with this information?" It was a good question. Admiral Hyunwoo commanded the Earth Defense Fleet, but his job was to protect human colonies, not to explore unknown space looking for alien civilizations. Earth's government had strict rules about first contact situations, and none of those rules covered responding to distress signals from dead species. "We need to report this to Earth immediately," the Admiral decided. "Full quantum transmission to the Defense Council. They need to know about this, and then what?" Lieutenant Subin asked. Admiral Hyunwoo didn't answer immediately. He thought about the Kalari's message. They had specifically reached out to others who value freedom. Humanity had fought wars for centuries to protect their freedom from tyrants and dictators. Now, somewhere in the galaxy, another species had died fighting for the same thing. Then we wait for orders, he said finally. But even as he said it, Admiral Hyun-woo knew waiting might not be enough. If the hegemony was real, if they were systematically destroying civilizations that refused to surrender, then humanity might be next. The galaxy was vast, but it wasn't infinite. Eventually, the hegemony would find Earth. Dr. Yoon-ji continued working on the translation, trying to extract every possible detail from the alien signal. Captain Taemin ordered the fleet to maintain position while they gathered more information. Lieutenant Subin kept listening, hoping to hear something new. As Admiral Hyun-woo watched the stars, he wondered how many other species were out there, hiding in the darkness, hoping someone would hear their calls for help. The universe suddenly felt much larger and much more dangerous than it had that morning. The Kalari message played again, its alien tones echoing through the bridge. Somewhere in those sounds was a story of courage, desperation, and hope. A dying civilization's last attempt to warn others about the coming storm. Admiral Hyun-woo made a silent promise to the empty space around them. The Kalari had asked to be remembered. Humanity would remember, and if the hegemony was still out there, they would learn that Earth's children were not easy prey.